All right, we're sitting here in my 2016 F-150 XLT, and when I bought this truck, it was a fleet truck, kind of the more base version of the XLT, and it only had the little 4-inch screen right there, and it had Sync 1, which is just like Bluetooth, but not really anything else, and so I wanted something a little bit more comprehensive, so I went and sourced out all the OEM parts, so this bezel with the bigger opening, and then the bigger screen with the APIM for Sync 3. And then I went ahead and added the heated seats and everything down here as well. Everything about this upgrade has been OEM. It's been working pretty much flawlessly. I wasn't going to plan on changing anything. I'm kind of still not planning on changing anything. However, a company reached out to me after they saw the Police Interceptor Explorer Tesla screen install review that I did for another company, and they wanted me to do the same thing but for them in my F-150. So I just recently got in the mail this T-style, they call it. I'm pretty sure that just stands for Tesla, but they don't want to get sued. So T-style Android radio, and unlike a lot of the Chinese ones, which this one is a Chinese one, but a lot of them get rid of all the knobs and everything altogether, and they go full touchscreen, which I'm not a fan of. That's how it was in my Interceptor one. However, this one does have knobs, so I haven't opened this yet, but we'll see if they feel good, if they're responsive, and so I am pretty curious about that. The company is called LINKSWELL, and the camera is not really in a position to really see the whole box right now. But my understanding is that they vend this or sell this through several different sales channels under different names, but I'm pretty sure it's all the same people selling it. Definitely the same factory, because they look completely identical from photos. But before I did that, I wanted to show you how this Sync 3 is performing. So maybe you're on the fence if you want to do Sync 3 or if you want to go aftermarket. So I just wanted to show you how responsive this is. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I am using the wireless adapter, which is an aftermarket accessory that is making it so I don't have to be hardwired into my phone, which I normally would have to be for Apple Carplay to work. So there might be just a slight hint of lag. I'll put the unit that I am using down in the description. I'm not endorsing it or anything. That's just the one I am using, and it has worked pretty well. So just swiping through the menus, it's pretty responsive. And once again, this is with a wireless adapter, which in theory probably would take a hit on the responsiveness. If we just tap on the apps, they generally load pretty quickly and pretty responsive. Now let's go to like a map app and zoom in. Sometimes I've noticed it's a little laggy for the first few touches, and then it gets a bit better. But for the most part, I'm not really going to be dragging around and looking anyway. But if I go, search destinations, it generally loads pretty quickly. I would say it's a little laggier right now than it normally is, but that may have something to do with the fact that the car's off. I don't think that would make a difference, but also it could be that I'm filming with my phone right now. It's been acting a little weird when I try to film. Anyway, so that's kind of how it is. Now I'm going to unplug my little wireless Bluetooth here, and I think it's even more responsive. I can't do heated seats when the car's off, but I think it's very responsive without Apple CarPlay. But it's not laggy enough that I don't use Apple CarPlay. I love the Apple CarPlay, and the auto hookup is definitely worth it. Anyway, but you can see, I would say this is like almost a 9 out of 10 or something on responsiveness. It works very well. Anyway, it's a very pleasant experience. So, with that being said, and you see how this works now, let's go ahead and unbox it, install the new one, and then compare. All right, so let's go ahead and open this up. I do apologize about the lighting. Sun is setting, and I'm just gonna do this on my tailgate. So far the packaging is a little better than the last one of these radios I did. Let's see if this is the extent of the instructions. Has some information of where to get some tech support, but if this is the extent of the documentation, that'll be like the last one I did. It seems like on these Chinese radios, they have a tendency to have a really beefy unit as far as really heavy with features, and they under-document, so they leave the user trying to figure out a lot of stuff on their own, which is unfortunate, but I guess that's the nature of the beast. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our unit here. So the back side looks pretty good. The last one of these I did had a fake fan, plastic or molded fan that didn't actually operate in there. I don't see any gimmicky stuff like that on this one, so I guess that's a good sign. One thing that's interesting is this one has an HDMI port. I don't think the other one did. Overall, I would say it looks pretty good, and it's got quite a bit of heft to it, which I am not always expecting from one of these. So I'm hopefully going to be optimistic about this unit. I don't want to take the film all the way off yet, but these buttons do feel pretty decent and crisp, and I'm just realizing that they have that translucent ring on the inside, so these might illuminate, which would be pretty cool. The buttons feel a little spongy, but not terrible. It looks like they've got the little spacer in there because I've only got the two icons, but if you are the two buttons, but if you have a third button, they have the expansion there too, so that's kind of nice if you have a higher trim. If you have a higher trim one, I don't know why you'd be upgrading to this anyway, unless you just want to, I don't know, have access to Google and stuff. Let's look at the wiring here. Okay, so no instructions, so I guess this is what we're left with. Hopefully this will be a pretty intuitive install, that we won't need a lot of tech support stuff. No real point going into all of this, but it does look like it's just, these things are so heavy with the harnessing that I think, yeah, there's just so much stuff. So it looks like we've got a Bluetooth mic, which I don't know if we can utilize our OEM one. If we could, that would be great, but I'll just plug this in anyway and see what happens, but I think we might lose our OEM microphone capability, but we'll find that out. And then, yeah, here's our little program module. This is what actually has the data for the vehicle in it, I think, and then just all the adapter harnesses. So anyway, that's what's in the box. Let's go ahead and throw this in the vehicle and see how it hooks up. Hopefully it's pretty intuitive. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we have to remove this tray. Now, I have the little speaker in here. I added it in when I did the other upgrades, which is silly because this speaker's not even hooked up. If you have the one that doesn't have this little grill, there should be underneath the rubber mat just 2 screws right here. If you do have the speaker grill like I do, you need to take some trim tools. You probably get away with just one. And you just pry up this grill, and there's 4 clips. We pull that out of the way. And we've got these 4 screws, which I think are 7mm. They are perfect. And I don't think I can get an impact back there, so we're running them by hand. All right, and from here, all we got to do is pop off this whole panel, which is easy because the back just lifts, and then we fit our trim tool along the sides, and it just pops out like this. And then we have 2 more screws right here, but this time I can get my impact. And now this is loose, so we can pop this panel off. And we just need to unplug a couple of these plugs, including these top 2. All right, now there's a series of bolts that are going to be, so there should be 6. I'm missing one on this side. I think I actually have it in there. I forgot to put it in last time. So we're going to take these 6 bolts out, and then these 4 bolts out, because we're going to take the CD player out. Keep all these bolts, and then just, if you have the unit with the 4-inch screen, it might look a little bit different. There'll be a smaller screen assembly. Just still pull everything out. All right, so we got everything out. The hardest plug is probably this orange radio antenna wire, just because it's a little tight in there to get out. So now the fun part comes of trying to figure out how all of these harnesses plug. Now, this one's obvious, that's the mic. We'll just set that off to the side. Looks like there's this USB one for media in, which I haven't looked into yet, but I'm hoping there's a way to join this up with the media hub in there, so use it as an extension. If not, you can run it into that pocket, but you may have to notch out a hole in your console for it to run through. You might be able to finesse it, or you can run it through your glove box. That's another option. So all these ones that have standard AV plugs and stuff like that, and then the other side is a unique plug. These are what's going to go into the back of your unit. So I'm just going to scoop all these out because this will take a bit of time if we go over every single one of these and figure out what it is. As long as it's got a space where it belongs on the back of this radio, we'll just go ahead and put it in. So it looks like they should only have like one option each. Yeah, so you can't accidentally populate the wrong one in the wrong space. So I'm gonna go and plug this in. It looks like this is where the mic will plug in, and then these three looks like accessory, all that good stuff. So I'm hoping we don't actually have to hook that in because and then ground, these are all capped off. I'm hoping that we don't actually have to use these. I'll go ahead and plug it in. I'm hoping that it will just work based on the OEM cables, because that's how the other ones were. This is the GPS antenna. I already have a good aftermarket, well, it's not, well, it is aftermarket, but it is a clone of the original one, and so I'm gonna just use my old one. I'll set this aside. Looks like some more AV stuff. Now, one of these is probably gonna be the adapter for the backup camera, but we will see. All right, and then I think this, I'm not 100% sure. Let's see if it says what this, it doesn't say what this, oh it does, okay. So this is the Wi-Fi antenna. We'll go ahead and, I'm not gonna unspool it yet because I don't know where I'm gonna mount this. I wanna make sure everything's working good. There's a little coax cable that just twists on for the Wi-Fi antenna. One thing about these aftermarket Chinese screens is they're just so heavy on the wiring. This, I believe, is the big old master harness that should plug in here. This is for our USB. All right, it does look like will work with our OEM, I'm thinking, is what it's looking like. SPDIF output cable. Not 100% sure what that is, but I'll plug it in. Hopefully it's not something that's gonna spy on me. All right, this is the adapter for the antenna, which for the radio, we'll just plug in right there, like that. And then we still need to figure this one out. So this is, oh, so this is for 360-degree camera, which we don't have. So this might just be for options that we don't have. Okay, so for 18 and up, 360-degree camera. So I don't think we'll actually be using this. Well, this is for reverse camera. So we won't be using all the plugs, it looks like. And then here's another USB line, 10 pin. This one does not look like it adapts. So we have an extra USB now. And then here's the reverse cable. So I think we might be able to just use, let's see if this goes in there. This looks like it goes in there. Yep, okay. All right, and then USB power. I don't see, there is a plug, but not that one. God, it's so heavy with the plugs on these things. I don't have another spot for that to plug in. So we're gonna see if this is gonna, oh, here we go. This is where these plug in. Okay, so then I'm going to take this orange cable, this little tiny one, bolts in there. Sorry you guys have to bear with this, but this is what it's like doing this real time for the first time. Okay, and then this plug will go up in there. This one will go in. These two go into the back of the radio. And I think that's about it, other than this USB is the one that goes down to our hub. Oh, and you know what? These are for that. Okay, so these other two plugs that I was missing spots for are for these ones that went into the back of the radio. So, man, there's just such a rat's nest, and it's hard to get this all to fit. So I'm gonna have to get this close to being lined up without scratching up my interior any worse than it already is. Sorry this is so hard to show at this point because there's just so many plugs. Hopefully we can get this installed regardless of the rat's nest. Plug in our GPS antenna. Then these, I think, are the last ones, and they will go into our actual radio. So now we've got to get all this stuff sandwiched up in here, which is just a nightmare. All right, so I haven't been able to get one of these plugs, the OEM, well, this is actually one of the Sync 3 adapters that you get online. I haven't been able to get that plug into this radio, so I end up taking off the little arm, which means it's not going to be securely clicked in, but I could not get it to sit otherwise, so let's see if that does the trick. It still catches up on it. So the plug is slightly different. See if I can get my old radio up here real quick. Yeah, so on the OEM, this plug right here, which may be the HVAC plug, I'm not sure, it's hard to show, has these two open gaps on the sides, and on this aftermarket unit only has the gap on one side and not the other, so I'm having a hard time getting it to fit in there. Now this may be because I'm using the aftermarket adapter harness, but the aftermarket adapter harness should be the same as if your vehicle came equipped with Sync 3. Other than kind of modifying and cutting off one of these little knobs that's getting hung up, I don't really see a solution, and I don't really want to damage my harness here. So I could try to just kind of jam it in there, but that's never a good idea. Well, I just did it. That's the only issue I've run into so far. I think everything else is plugged in now. So let us see if we can turn on our radio here and get it to boot up. And it also looks like the little clips to snap the top of this into here did not come with these ones, so I'm gonna have to overhaul it. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this puppy to turn on, and we can kind of see how it performs. I have it precariously propped up right now. So key on, first time booting. Hopefully it does boot. It is not booting. So I realized what my problem was. There was that little red CAN bus box that had slipped down in my console, and I missed that and I didn't plug it in, which is kind of like the brains of the whole thing. So once I plug that in, I'm pretty certain now that this is all gonna work just swell. So let's go ahead and turn this on now for the first time. It is, on that note, it is easy to get lost in those wires. I should have known better. But anyway, let's go ahead and start this up and see how it works. All right, there's our first look. It's a Ranger, I think, or an Everest. That's not a F-150, but okie doke. Let's see how long it takes for this thing to start up. It's the first time starting up, so I do expect it to be probably a little slower than normal. Seemed responsive. I do like having this knob here. I will say that is so much nicer. And you can use a touch and grab too. That is so much nicer than the one I had in the Interceptor. All right, let's go. Let's see if it'll do an auto scan here. Okay. So just hitting the skip button, it looks like it goes to, it auto finds stations that are available, which that's a very nice feature, which you're going to find in pretty much all radios these days. Let's click on nav real quick and let's see. It's pulling up Google here. I don't know if it's going to work if our phone's not hooked up yet. Probably not. There's our radio music. Let's see. I don't see, there's no music preloaded, which actually in my mind is a good thing, because if you went and watched my Interceptor video, the unit was a less quality unit than this one from what I can tell already, and it had issues where it had preloaded music that you couldn't delete, and it was like in Chinese, and I couldn't stand it, and you couldn't get rid of it, and it was always the first song that played. So the fact there's no preloaded music and you have to upload all your own, that is great. So let's go ahead and go to, let's see. Okay, video's disabled. I'm sure we can probably turn that off. Phone link. So this should be, so Z-Link is what we have in my other vehicle. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, pair this up since I'm filming with my phone. So let's do all the other features, and then I can maybe pair with my wife's phone here in a little bit and see if we can get it to work. So let's go, what's Nova Launcher? It says select a home app just once. If you're familiar with Android, this may be somewhat familiar. You can tend to get lost in the menus on these things. Okay, so this is like our home screen. Let's go to climate. Climate's a big thing for me. Okay, so it is working. You can hear it working, and the fact that, let's see, I don't have rear defrost. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a lot of these features to turn on anyway because the car's not on right now. But it is not trying to do the dual, which is great because I don't have dual. I don't see my heated seat buttons, so we're going to have to get that figured out. I think there should be somewhere in here that we can manipulate the settings. Let's go back to climate. That should turn it off. It does. Great. So for all intents and purposes, it looks like this is working in climate. That's great. I think, okay, the compass, who knows if that's working. That's not in the right direction, but it may need a minute to orient. So that's just our different tabs. It's going to take a while to kind of orient myself with this. Oh, you can adjust the brightness. That's kind of cool. Where do I just go to, like, settings? Oh, here we go. Okay. So, first off, let's put it in reverse. Let's see what reverse does. No signal. So we're not getting a camera, which I think I can probably get to work if I go back to using the original adapter. All right, so now we're hooked up to Wi-Fi. So let's try some of these apps out now. So let's just go to Google. No thanks. So we should be able to, and I think if we have, I don't have my mic hooked up, but let's see if maybe my mic works anyway. Ford F-150. Okay, so I don't think it's utilizing my factory mic, so we would have had to use the aftermarket mic. I purposely left it off, hoping that it would listen, be able to, through that adapter harness, that it would use our factory microphone, and I don't think it is. So we're going to have to use this aftermarket mic, which is a bummer. But now when I turn on my lights, on my vehicle, these all light up, which is nice, and they're the nice ice blue, like they look OEM, so that is great. So I was able to do a little bit more digging on some of the settings. The number one being is trying to figure out how to get my heated seats to show up on here. What I realized that it's not very intuitive off the bat, because if you're at the home screen, if you close this, it shows that you can swipe left and right up here, but you don't realize that you can swipe down here. It seems like those little dots that show you what page you're on right there, they should have something similar here. Oh, and look at that, I didn't even know you could do that. So you can swipe over here and there's even more settings. So anyway, so we were on this page. If you swipe one more to the right, and then go to settings, and then under system, let's do settings guide, seat and steering wheel. We don't have steering wheel heat, we don't have cooled seat, but we do have heated seat. So we go okay, and then we're gonna have to reboot. But real quick, let's just see what other options are here real quick. Reverse mute, dynamic guidelines. So we've got all these different things. I turned off the ambient light because I don't have ambient lighting. So that's cool. So we'll save and reboot, and then okay. Now, one of the things I should mention too is probably the biggest issue I've seen so far is that it takes a while to reboot this thing, or just to even turn it on every single time. So I thought that the Sync 3 could be faster, but this could be a lot faster. So it just kind of does this thing. Now, the good thing, well, I shouldn't even say good thing, but one of the things that's okay to get over with it, and that was actually not that slow this time around, but the fact that it has the knobs, you can adjust your volume knobs and stuff right off the bat, so that is useful. Now let's go to climate, and we should have, right here is our heated seat buttons, and they operate just like the normal ones. So that's perfect. I would assume that if you have the dual controls for your AC or for your HVAC, that you can adjust it similarly in the settings. That's also over here is also where your EQ is. So if you want to adjust your bass and stuff, but there's a few other ways to get to this. Like if you're in the radio app, you can get there anyway. Now if we just go to apps, now this is just another format of what we saw before if we go to our home screen. So there's multiple ways to get to the same thing in different formats, so it can get a little confusing, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Now, something I did realize too is if you go to Foxit PDF, which is a PDF reader, which is kind of funny, but the whole reason they put this on here is so they can give you access to the user manual. So here's all the user manual stuff too, which actually it could use some work, but it does have some information at least, so that's good. It's not a real comprehensive guide. And then I also realized after the fact that on this little info sheet, when I opened it, it actually gives you a link to go to, and then they have videos and instructions and stuff. But so better documentation than a lot of these Chinese radios, but it's still not perfect. But you know, it is what it is. What are you going to do? So here's, you can manually turn on your camera. Once again, I need to get mine worked out. File manager. If we go to, here's something, let's try. Okay, let's go to Chrome. Accept and continue. No thanks. All right, F-150 wallpaper. I want to try to download one. That's a cool one. All right, no, not download link, download image. Sure, download. Cool, so we're able to download images. Let's go to open. And then let's see if we can set this as a wallpaper somehow. So let's go to File Manager. Downloads, here's the one we just downloaded. It's a little pixely. I'm just trying to see if we can set as background. Oh, well, it doesn't want to. Okay, for sake of demonstration, this is a terrible image, I guess I chose. For demonstration, we're going to see what this background. Now let's go to home. How do I get out of this? I'm stuck. Okay, this File Explorer and Image Manager is buggy. So I guess the screen's frozen now. Well, okay, there we go. System UI isn't responding. Close app. Well, we just crashed that app, I guess. But how do I get out? Well, apparently once you're in some of these menus, you can't get out of them, at least not in an intuitive way. So this seems to be pretty common with Chinese radios, that the user interface is... Okay, so we just crashed the whole thing. Close app. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Okay. There, we got out of it. Okay, now let's see if we can find... Okay, there's the background back there. It's behind the images, so you can't even see it. So setting your own background is kind of a moot point, I guess. You're kind of stuck with whatever they have. Now, supposedly, by pushing and holding, we're supposed to be able to customize things, but I don't... It just goes into Google Maps. So I guess that doesn't work. Let's go over to customize. It looks like we could choose... Well, you would think you would be able to click and choose an app to put there, but it just took us to this page. Yeah, it's a little buggy. Okay. Homepage background. Oh, you can... Okay, so we can adjust the background pages. That's kind of cool. So I'm in Alaska, so let's do that fancy one there. I'm probably going to have to save and reboot again. Let's see. Well, I don't see anything different as far as a background or a menu. Anyway, system theme, classic versus modern. Let's see what classic looks like. Okay, so I guess that's where that little backup menu was, or the background graphic, the back, whatever you want to call it, the desktop background. So, wallpaper. So this is a different format, I guess. All right, so something I did notice that you can do to kind of customize, not in a big way, but if you come down to this Nova launcher, it's an alternative way. Now, disregard this ugly background that I set, but it's an alternative menu, so it's more Android-y, if you want to call it that. So there's the Google search bar at the top. Your apps are just showing on the home screen, and it feels more like an Android tablet. Now, I don't care for that as much, so the default I have set is to this one here. And when I first started it up, it asked me which one wanted to be default, and I set this one. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was... I don't think it's even listed up on here. But anyway, let's go ahead and do Bluetooth. So let's click on Bluetooth. Let's see how well all this connects. So if I am on Bluetooth, and let's go to Link Devices, and I'm using my wife's phone here, so I'm just going to go to Bluetooth, and maybe I need to find a device. I think it's this one, BTA364W. Maybe search. Maybe not. It's not showing up. Okay, device pin. Okay, so it is that. It should ask me for a code on my device. We'll just do 0000. Pair. Bluetooth music. Let's go. I don't know what music my wife has on her phone. I think it's working. Okay. So we got that working. Cool. So we got Bluetooth music working, and that's just using this little Bluetooth app down here. Now we'll go to home, and we've got it down here. Well, I don't like that. Let's see. It looks like when I try to skip. Oh, there we go. All right, so I can manage my music through here. That's nice. Now let's check our steering wheel controls. It looks like they're working. Let's try pause. I don't have a pause button on here. Let's hit the phone call button. That button doesn't work. Oh, one of the buttons worked. Okay, the call button worked. The volume button works on the steering wheel. That's good. And then our skip and back. Okay, perfect. Now let's try Phone Link. This is going to be our like jailbroken version of Apple Carplay. So, connecting. I don't know if I need an app. Okay, so it's asking me if I want to connect. So let's connect. And this is going to be our moment of truth. Wow. The audio, maybe just louder, but it sounds better. It could have just been louder. Okay, so these are notoriously laggy. Yeah, that is a little laggy. Let's go to Spotify. I mean, it's not terrible. And then let's try volume buttons. Still works good. Skip. Oh, that's cool. It gives you the little battery. iPhone is low. Okay, so that's good. And once again, this is all wireless, so it's not wired CarPlay, which is a pro for sure. Let's go to Maps. And let's see. You know, not. I mean, it's a little laggy, not quite as good as Sync, but man, it's honestly it's definitely better than the one that's in my Explorer, in my Interceptor. Not bad, honestly, for the jailbroke version of, or the cracked version of Apple CarPlay. That's not bad. Yeah, that's about all we really need to test here. Let's see. Yeah, no, I think we're good. Podcast app. My wife loves her murder podcasts for some reason. Cool. And we can all come back here, and then if we just click this phone link again, we go back into Apple CarPlay. So man, actually, I had low expectations for the Apple CarPlay because generally these are bad and not very responsive, and like you can see there's a slight lag, but for what it is, not bad. Cool. Well, that's kind of the big deal. Now, if you wanted to do videos and stuff, what you would do is you would transfer them to a USB drive, plug them into the USB ports that we have coming out of the back of the unit, which you can run to your cubby down here or in your glove box, plug it in. You can either leave it in and read them off of your USB, or you can transfer them from your USB into the files folder. So if you come over here to File Manager, you can find the flash drive, which I think will show up about right here if it's like my other unit. And then you can literally copy and paste them into wherever videos is. Somewhere there should be a file in one of these for videos. Probably if we go to the actual videos app, and then maybe they have a folder, maybe they don't. Oh, that's cool. You can have your video and you can just drag it around so it's in the corner. If you have a kid in your car, you can watch it, so you can do all your other stuff. but I want that gone. Yeah, so there should be a way that you can at least read off of USB, but I think you can. I think they said there's 54 gigs of storage on here, so you can put a few videos and stuff. Same thing with the music. Overall, I would say not terrible. Let's click on the navigation, and let's see now that the phone is connected. Yeah, so now we've got. We should have navigation, but well, it showed it for a minute. Well, if you're using Apple Carplay, you'll have navigation for sure, but the rest is a little. This navigation's a little buggy. All right, well, trying to think of anything else. I think for the most part, that's most of the features. I need to figure out the backup camera, so I'll do that real quick. Bluetooth is working fine. The hands-free calling seems to be working fine as long as you have your microphone plugged in. Yeah, so let me figure out the camera, and then we can go from there. Okay, so all I did, I got it figured out, and all I had to do is unplug my. So I already had one of these adapters plugged in the back that came with my Sync 3 upfitting or upgrade harness. If you haven't already done a Sync 3 upgrade, you probably won't have this. But one already came with. So pretty much what I'm saying is I had two. One came with this, one I already had. So I just went ahead and left the one I already had in, but this plugs into the factory connector. Mine was already plugged in. And then this one was going back into the Sync 3 adapter harness. Instead, I unplugged it from here and hooked it into the harness coming out of the back of this new radio that said, I think it said factory backup camera or something like that. And now, when I put it in reverse, we have a low quality image, but I think that is just because this camera is not designed to go on a big screen. If you upgraded your camera and you use like an HD camera like they have an option for, you probably will get better resolution. I'm not going to mess with that. One thing I am curious of is if I start this, if I get my guidelines. Okay, I do get to keep my guidelines, so that's great. So one thing that is kind of cool with the camera is that if I'm on my home screen here, I can swipe over, click on camera, and I'm driving down the road, but let's say I'm towing and I want to look at my hitch or my trailer or something. I can just turn the camera on, and I'm not even in reverse right now, and you can just turn that on demand, which is super cool. And then also, it has hookups on the back of this if you want to wire in front and side cameras, which I obviously do not have hooked up, but should make it real easy if you're wanting to put perimeter cameras up. So cool, that's a cool feature to have. All right, so I've had a little bit of time to mess around with this, and not a ton, but I think enough to get a general idea of it. Keep in mind that I've had a couple of these Chinese Android units before, and so I've kind of been able to figure out what's to be expected, what some do poorly, what some do pretty well. Overall, this is probably the best one that I've encountered, but I just wanted to go through some of the pros and cons that I've kind of seen. So let's start with the pros. So I would say overall, probably one of the nicest things about this upgrade is the fact that it's all in one. If you're going to go to Sync 3, which I already did once, you have to get the upgraded panel that's going to fit the bigger screen. Then you need the screen and the APIM, which sometimes they come together, but if you're getting the parts from Ford, I believe they would always come separately. And then you're also having to make sure you get a panel that has like the same HVAC controls as you. So for example, a lot of times the large 8-inch screen is from like a Lariat or a Platinum or something that's going to have the dual zone HVAC and so, or the heated and cooled seat buttons. And if you have an XL or an XLT, you're not going to have use for those, and you can't just, you're just going to have to see those. So it takes a little bit of searching around on eBay or getting the exact part you need new from Ford, which can be quite expensive. And so you're kind of on this parts treasure trail hunt, trying to find the exact thing for your vehicle. You don't need to do that with this. You just buy it, plug it in, no extra harnesses or anything. Everything that you need comes with it. You don't need to shop for extra parts like you do with the Sync 3 upgrade, and it's all here. So that's super convenient. You can get this all installed in a relatively short period of time. The next thing I would say is that it actually looks really clean. Not even just talking about the software, just like the overall appearance. Like the fact that they used the similar style 2 round knobs, and the buttons are pretty close. I'd say like 80 to 90% identical to how they would be on a regular F-150. And then they've got the same ice blue color. I think they did a really good job trying to make this thing actually look OEM. I would say that's like super good. I really like that you have the HVAC controls down here and the knobs that are actually physical, because like I said, a lot of the China ones, they think it's a good idea to use everything just touch on climate stuff, and I think that's a terrible design, because then you're trying to go slower and then faster, and you're having to like rapid touch these things, and it's just a pain in the butt. It's ideal if you can have knobs so you can quickly manipulate it when you need to. Another really cool feature that a lot of the times the cheaper units won't have is the fact that you can go in and adjust, so turn on your heated seats and everything, and if you don't have heated seats, you can disable that or enable it. Same with the heated steering wheel, cooled seats. On my other unit, on my Interceptor, you can't do that, and it just has all the options all the time. And probably my least favorite one is that it says dual, whereas it does not actually, it's not equipped with dual, and that's not a software thing. That's hardware in the dash that you can't really control unless you want to swap the whole dash out, and it's a real nightmare. So the fact that this one starts more base model, and then you have the option to add stuff or activate stuff, that's a huge plus that you're not going to get on the real budget units. So I'd say that's really good. I really like that it maintains factory control. So if I come over here and turn up the volume, that I can control it through there, hit mute, that's great. Go to phone calls, it should go to the phone call setting, which it is. The fact that I can just pretty easily use my original backup camera without having to do much, and the fact that it also has the parking guide that is retained, that's a big plus. And it looks like you can come up here. I just noticed you can adjust things. That's kind of cool. The fact that it has that, and then I really like that I can come over and hit the camera and then just turn on my camera, my rear camera, even though I'm not in reverse. And then you have the option, just by simply plugging in behind the unit, to add side and front view cameras. I think that's a really great features that they have here, and a lot of times it's a real pain in the butt on these aftermarket units to install stuff like that. I really like that it is not preloaded with a bunch of garbage media, which is pretty common on these Chinese units, where they have a couple test songs, but they're not songs that you want to have. And so you're going to come in here and, let's see, wherever the music player is, right here, and then go to browse. And it's a great when there's nothing in there, because anything that is going to go in there, you're going to put in there yourself, and you're not going to be stuck with stupid media that they chose at the factory, which is guaranteed not what you want. So there's no preloaded media on the music or the videos. That's really good. It has a pretty good touch response for an aftermarket radio, I gotta say. Sometimes these things lag a lot, generally on units, where this one is not too bad. The only time it really is pretty laggy is when you're in the maps, or the jailbroke Apple CarPlay. That will lag out sometimes, but I've never seen one of these Z-Link ones that doesn't lag a little bit, and this one definitely lags the least out of any of the ones I've ever used. It's not as responsive as normal Apple CarPlay on like Sync 3, but it's still pretty good. Probably the last thing I like that you wouldn't really think about unless you've spent a lot of time with these kind of units is that it's not inundated with just tons of stupid features that you're never going to use. So like on the one on my Interceptor, if you come over here, there are like multiple pages of these apps that you don't really know what they do. They have kind of stupid features like stopwatches and timers, audio recorder, stuff that's like you're never going to use that, and you don't have the ability to delete them. And now I haven't checked if you can delete these. I think you probably can. Maybe you can't. But even so, it's just like a page of apps. And I know you can get more. I think you can go to the Play Store and you could get more apps. I don't know exactly what you'd want, but I think there probably is a way to delete these, but maybe not, because like I don't need Netflix on here and I don't need a lot of this stuff. So, but a lot of this stuff is just basic operations, like everything on the top line, top row is stuff that you might want. So long story short, I like that it's pretty clean. It could be a little cleaner. I do like that there's the quick access stuff down here and it's pretty uniform instead of just having all these random mismatched apps. Kind of like if you go to the Nova launcher, like how it is like that, I don't love that. Once again, disregard this backdrop. I was just playing around with random files, and so that's why that looks that way. It's not how it's supposed to be. But so overall, it looks good too. I think some people, if they're not really familiar with Fords, probably would hop in your truck and think that this is the factory software. And I think that's a really good thing, whereas I can't say that about pretty much any of the other units that I've tested. So good on the manufacturers and designers for actually being kind of smart about that. All right, let's talk about the cons. So I would say the biggest con is how long it takes to start up. And I haven't timed it, but it's probably like 15 seconds or more. It's pretty long. And sometimes it's a little faster, but most of the time it's pretty slow, especially when it hasn't been started in a while. And so it takes a while to boot up. Not the end of the world, especially because we have our knobs here. If it was only touchscreen, I would have a bigger problem with that, because while it's starting up, I can at least turn up the volume, I can turn up the HVAC, and so that's really all that I really need the radio for right away. It is kind of annoying, and the fact that it has like a little animation that kind of goes across the screen the whole time it's loading makes it feel a little cheap. I'd rather just see a regular Ford logo or like let me add the Ford logo, which there may be a way to do, but once again, it's not like insanely intuitive, which I'll talk about here in a minute. Another thing I don't like is that it does not utilize the factory microphone. So if you had Sync 1 or 2 or 3, just Sync in general, and had Bluetooth access and you have your little microphone up top, it's not compatible, at least as far as I could find, with this unit, and you have to use their aftermarket one, which I did not yet set up. And I just have never really liked these. They just, I don't know, they just never seem to have very good quality, and they pick up a lot of feedback. Now, I can't judge this one in particular, but every one I've ever used has been kind of subpar. So I wish I didn't have to go install all that, but it is what it is. So yeah, it's not very super intuitive for navigation. It's not bad, but I could see how some people could get lost pretty easy, whereas Apple CarPlay and Sync 3 is very easy. Like, it's really hard to get lost, and they really minimize things. I think sometimes these Chinese manufacturers, they just think that packing lots of buttons and features is appealing, and maybe it is to some people, but for most people, you just want like less options. It's kind of nice if you can just do everything without scrolling through menus. And this one isn't as bad as some others, but it's got a little bit of that, you know, like, anyway. It's not too bad, but it's definitely not intuitive. I would say the worst part is trying to change settings, because you've got this little gear up here, so you're like, oh, maybe that's my settings. And then you come up here, and it's just the bass and, you know, the audio stuff. But then when you tap the buttons, they don't do anything. So it's like, well, what's up with that? And it looks kind of like this, a button. You can change something, but it doesn't. So you go back, and you're like, okay, well, where's my settings? You're like, oh, well, seat. Maybe I can do that, change my seat. Oh, the massage, I don't even have massage stuff, and so I don't know, like, it's like, where's all my settings? And then you scroll over here, which, like I said, like I said earlier, this was kind of hidden, that I could swipe over, and they need to have a little extra bubble down here that shows you that there's multiple pages. But then you come over here, settings, okay, there it is. So you can find it, but if someone was borrowing your car for the day, they might be calling you being like, hey, how do I do this? You know, so anyway, it's not the end of the world. It's definitely cleaner than others I've used, but that is something that I kind of think about. It's a little laggy, but not too laggy. So I already talked about this, but in the phone link, it's definitely going to be the laggiest. And then when I was trying to change the screens and stuff, it kind of freaked out and would freeze up, and then I got stuck in a menu, and it took a little bit of like getting out of this loop cycle before I could really figure it out. And so, you know, not too surprised by that because it didn't freak out while doing normal functions. But anytime that something just like shuts down or reboots while you're trying to use it, probably not a great sign. But I'm not going to dock it too much. It's just, hopefully it doesn't get worse with time. Hopefully that's just a kind of isolated incident, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that. It could be polished just a little bit more. It's really not bad. I just think that, like, for example, the settings menu, it would be nice if you just had one button for settings instead of like one here, or over here. Just, I don't know. It could be a little better. But once again, not terrible. The one thing about aftermarket radios, and I don't care how well they make them, when they're integrated with your HVAC controls, I'm always skeptical about how long it's going to last. Because in theory, you pull out your old unit and you just sell it or dispose of it or whatever, and you don't think twice about it. If I'm going from Sync 1 to Sync 3, I'm just going to get rid of my Sync 1 unit and not worry about it. But with an aftermarket one, it's always going to be a good idea to just keep your old unit, because this thing could crap out in a month. Like, I hope not, especially for the price point, which I'll talk about in a minute. But it's just real questionable because it's not really widespread. There's been thousands of people using the sync system, and so Ford should have it pretty well ironed out. And worst case scenario, you can go get support from the dealer or whatever, flash new versions. Sometimes they'll have issues and they'll upgrade them and stuff. I kind of doubt there's going to be regular software updates for these, and if there are, probably not for very long after release. And then, this company could go under, and then this goes away, and it's like, oh shoot, if this goes bust, I'm going to have to just go buy a completely new unit, and they're expensive, instead of just going down to the junkyard and finding, a bunch of them, and like if it's OE software or OE hardware, and be able to just bolt it right back in. So that's a risk you take with any aftermarket, but it's something I always think about. I would say probably the biggest con is the price. Now, they sent this to me for free. They didn't pay me anything, but they did give this to me for free. And they didn't give me any talking points. They didn't coach me or anything. They just sent it. And I told them it was going to be honest review. And I think $1,200, this is a 5th gen, I believe. The 5th gens I found online were about $1,200. And man, for that price, if you had a Sync 1, I would probably just go Sync 3, because I did it for cheaper. I think I did it for between $500 and $800 because I sourced it all out at a junkyard where they weren't trying to nickel and dime me. So if you just buy all the stuff on eBay or from a third-party company for all the sync upgrade stuff, you might pay in the $1,000 range. But I mean, I kind of like the Sync 3 better, but this is a good unit. Don't get me wrong. This is a good unit, and it's easier as far as sourcing all the parts and everything, because like I said before, it's an all one encompassing unit. So that's the con, I would say, is the price on this. So overall, I would give it a B or a B minus. It would be my grade on it. And a lot of that is because of the price. Probably a B minus because of the price. If it was in the $800 range, I'd probably be, if it was the price or a little cheaper than a Sync 3 upgrade, I'd say, okay, that's fine. But it is a pretty steep price. The big question is it worth it? Well, obviously it's worth it to me because I didn't pay anything. But for you sitting at home, $1,200 is a lot of money. And I would say if you have Sync 1, which I originally had, or you have Sync 2, which is pretty limited, doesn't have Apple Carplay, I would say that this probably isn't the worst route to go. The reason why is just, like I said earlier, like you're going to get way more features than you're going to get in Sync 1 or 2. Definitely from Sync 1. You're going to have it look a lot better, and you don't have to worry about all the extra modules and stuff because it's just all inclusive. So it might be worth it. If you are a big Android user and you're very familiar with it and you have certain apps you want to use that you're definitely not going to get to work on a Sync 3, so that's great too. Also, like if playing movies and stuff is a big deal for you for kids, This is a pretty cool unit for that. So you can have video. I mean, that's probably not the safest thing to be driving down the road watching a movie, but you have that option at least. So there's going to be a few features. Over Sync 3, if you have Sync 3, like I do, probably not worth it because there's not a lot more features you're going to get. The biggest improvement you're going to get over Sync 3 is the overall visual appearance, which to me is not worth that much money, but for some it will be. I'm kind of a tightwad. What I will say, though, is that for being Chinese software, which I'm assuming it all is, because usually that's what these are, and being Android-based, this is the best unit that I've used, especially with the big screens, because usually they cheap out on the software. And I really wish that they made this for the Explorers, because the police interceptor community would really benefit from a good aftermarket option like this, because you can't retrofit sync into them very easily or really at all if they didn't have sync. So I would say to the manufacturers over at LINKSWELL, I would say if you can get this package into a police interceptor utility with the knobs and the physical buttons, please, I would love to do a video on it, and I would get give a much different response than I would in this video. But I understand that it's probably a pretty tall order, but I think that's where the real good market would be, is for those interceptor folks. Anyway, this was my review. Hopefully it was somewhat helpful. I know it's a little drawn out, but hopefully it's a little bit more in depth than others. I'm not going to show putting it all back together because that's just it in reverse. And truth be told, I'm probably going to go back to my Sync 3 just because I already did all that work and I really like it. But hopefully this was helpful for you, and let me know if there's any certain videos you want to see in the future. And other than that, thanks for watching.